All right, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Community Pool Meet-In. My name is Dean Hill, and up with me is Steve Williams. And today we'll be doing a information session, but also, in a sense, getting your ideas and input from the community to have an idea and just a discussion about what this initiative could look like. Okay. Now, one thing I want to kind of set this tone right away is that one thing that I've always noticed is that everyone always says they do want this. And we understand that from the first meeting, that question was answered. But now, versus saying, yes, we need it, we want that, what does it look like? And what else do we want into this? At this point, it's almost like a complex, like entertainment, sports complex, whatever you want to be. It can get bigger than a pool, you know. And we come up with a huge list of ideas so far, and information gathered from the last meeting. And I'm going to go over some of the topics that were talked about that could also be included in this massive, a theater, artistic, or kind of like a movie area, gymnastics area, library study area, weight room, rock climbing, sauna, cold plunge, running track, a calf, a gift shop, a daycare, accessibility areas, arcades, music studio, soundproof room. See, all these ideas here is something that we want to hear because, one, it allows us to get out of the, I like to say, the box that our mindset is kind of contained into. And I mean, and I get that. It's kind of like a historical issue, right? But when are we going to start thinking outside the box that we can literally do whatever we want to do? and who's going to stop us at this point? So to kind of allow yourself to imagine something bigger than what we're used to, and yes, this is kind of uncharted territory as well, because this is something that's never really been done. So we don't know what the end goal is, but it's okay that we don't know what the end goal is, because when starting initiatives like this, we don't always have a plan right from start to finish. You know, you're going to probably get lost in translation sometimes, but we are able to pivot and we are able to, maneuver ourselves to get onto the right track and adjust where necessary. But this is why these community engagements here are really important to me, because sometimes we could be thinking this is the way, but then we get input from the community that says this is the way actually, right? And this is what helps guide us. So this is why I really appreciate every single one of you coming out here tonight, and every single one of you as well who is tuning in online, that this should hopefully be the start of more type of things in the future down the line. But with that being said, today we are going to try and get more ideas since the last meeting of what could be in this building, but also we would want the community to have oversight over this. The community is the decision maker over it. So when we establish a board, we'd like to see who would like to volunteer their time as well to then have the work be done with this. Because if it's a community initiative, then we're going to bring you along the whole way, because that's what's fair for everybody, you know, and to make sure that everyone has their say and their voices heard on this. So, Steve, would you like to say any opening remarks as well? Thank you.
Yes, we're trying to get input from you. We know basically what people have said the last time. Some of them were kind of outrageous, but we still put them down as a list. We're not going to have a Great Wolf Lodge facility with arena, with a hotel. There's no parking spot. There's nothing like that available. So we got to focus on what we need. If we need the library in this building, we need 2 levels, 2 stories with a walking track, a pool on one side and everything else on the other side. Then what else do we need? We're here hoping to hear from you what you'd like to see in it as a wish list, and we'll go from there. We're going to be going to businesses and asking them to money to help support this for the construction and for an O&M. So there's a lot of businesses out here we have. I'm sure they'll put something toward it. We've got some government people we could also hit up for grants. So, we need to have some input into what you think we need, and we'll go from there. So if you're interested, it's a lot of work to be on this committee. You're not getting paid. So if anybody wants to volunteer their time, certainly willing to look at you. We'll decide, because we've got a number of people already said they want to sit here. So we got to look at the names and see what we can do with them. But we'll go from there. So enjoy your meals as well. There's lots of food. Don't be shy.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, lots of food. Help yourself. There's going to be lots of leftovers as well. So some of the different, let's say here, ways we can approach this center here. I've kind of compiled a list here on what it encompasses. So it's not just about athletics. Okay, that's probably the first thing we think about when we think of the pool. But when we start thinking of other areas like education, for example, people need to learn how to swim, right? This is it can be a life and death situation, so it'd be good for us to learn about that. So maybe that's a viewpoint that might open up some minds around here. Another one is the social service aspect of it, about our kids and our youth, of course. Something that they can come to, some kind of area where within our community we would have kind of a small oversight of what and controlled area where kids can enjoy themselves and have fun within this complex. You know, you can look at it also from a health perspective. Of course, the physical benefits of swimming, but also the mental health aspect too. You can look at it from, of course, fitness aspects, tourism, if you want to look at it from there, where different types of individuals or different teams that may want to come down to utilize the facility, okay, bring in more more eyes on the Six Nations community as a whole. And we can look at it too, I also have down here too, like emergency services training, right? An area where people can also be lifeguards and those type of things to help individuals and create more interest, you know. So those are just some of the avenues. And of course, culture and arts, right? Different, just to help open up your mind a bit to what else this could be in your dreams like scenario. So cool.
Okay, and the other thing is, there's paper in front of you. Write down some of your ideas. We'll collect them at the end of the evening, and we'll put them together, and we'll go from there. But like I said, there's a lot of opportunity here to be able to do this in this whole complex. So we're going to look forward to see how far we get on this, raising enough money to do it all.
So before we go ahead and end off here and go ahead and pass the mics around, there is going to be mics that will come around to anybody who would like to just talk about any concerns you may have, any thoughts, anything is all. There will be 2 mics that are coming around the table there. And I'll go ahead and open it up for any type of questions, concerns, thoughts, comments. Feel free, anybody who would like to do so. So. And of course, there's lots of food for those who just came in. Just help yourself.
Put your hand up if you want to say anything. Any ideas? If you don't, that's fine too. Just write them all down.
Yes, I was wondering if the facility itself would be handicap accessible for those in the community who are able to come in and utilize that.
Yes, it will be. There will be ramps into the pools. There's like 4 pools. There'll be a ramp for the pools, so that handicap can. And the one we checked out in Orangeville, it's non-slippery. You can't slip on it.
Okay.
Which is even better.
You said 4 pools. What do you mean? Like,
There's going to be Olympic-sized swim length pools.
okay.
There's the handicap pool. There's a family pool, and there's one other one I can't remember. A leisure pool.
And I was also maybe suggest a party room. You know
Yes.
how Uptown has it, and it's always loaded with a lot of people. So therefore, if we had a decent sized party room for the children to have their birthday parties or graduation parties or something in there.
Yeah, we're looking at that. People have said they want swim parties and, birthday parties together. So that's an option as well. We can look at doing that, at least in the leisure pools. But one of the things that's going to benefit us, if we make an Olympic-sized pool, surrounding communities will come here to work out for the Olympics and stuff like that. And our own people can get into the Olympics as well because they have a pool here. We're going to try to keep the price obviously low for our members, but we'll go from there. But yes, those are good questions, and yes, we're looked at already. Thank you. Any other comments?
Two of them. Sorry I'm late. I had to be at a hospital where a friend of mine got hit on Chiefswood Road yesterday and is in critical care. So sorry I'm late. And she was asking herself, how are you going to handle the O&M? I told her how it'll probably take one employee, you know, to manage the place on a daily basis, but that was her question. How are you going to do that?
Okay, for the pool itself, it takes one person to run the pool. It's all automatic. The guy will have his phone. He gets a beep on the phone. He goes there and pushes a button, and is back to resolving. There isn't a lot of work for the pool itself on maintenance. We talked earlier about, you know, if we're going to have like somebody like cleaning up the place, you know, picking up garbage, cleaning the floors, whatever. There's always kids looking for putting their hours in, so they can volunteer their time for that. And we can look at doing that as well. So I don't think that's the big issue. We're still going to have to hire some staff, but I don't think that should be a big issue because we're looking at raising enough money for the buildings as well as O&M.
Just to add on to that comment as well, one, thank you very much, but the automation and the technology nowadays for pools has drastically changed than what we're maybe used to in early 2000s or even before then, where Steve is correct, where the visits that we did have in Orangeville, a lot of the maintenance and the filtration of the pool is very much done in a very small room, not even the size of this here. I would even say an eighth of this room here is the maintenance room now. And it is very much technological based and monitored that the press of the button could really filter out the entire thing. And I think in Orangeville, they did mention that it would take, they have to filter it every two weeks or so, maybe 3 weeks. And it takes about, backwash it, and it would be about 30 minutes. That's all it took for the filters. So it's very energy efficient as well, and you don't need to kind of dump out all the water and refill it or anything, right? It's just clean it and put it back in.
But the interesting part of this is most pools when you go to, you can smell the chlorine, right? This one has vents along the whole pool. So those vents suck up the chlorine. You can't smell it in there, which is really amazing. So that's what we're going to be focusing on as well. It's all high tech now. It's easy to do once we get everything done. Well, we're hoping to be more. They were hoping to be more. Not necessarily a chlorine, but they do have some chlorine. But hopefully, what's the other one? Salt water, which is better for your body anyway. But yeah, so those are the things we are looking at. There will be lifeguards there, and we will have people training lifeguards and teaching swimming lessons as well. So when we were in Orangeville, they had about 4 or 5 they're teaching to be lifeguards when we were there. So it's a little easier when they have people there on staff. I mean, at the beginning we can train as many people we have. We're talking to Great about doing training programs for this stuff. We're going to need people for the cafeteria thing, like where you buy food, that kind of stuff. So, there's a lot to do. We know there's a lot to work. And that's what I'm saying. If you want to volunteer, there's a lot of work ahead.
And it's not just, it's all a ton of work, but also too, just to having the minds and ideas to talk about and look at different things that maybe we're missing as well. Right. For example, the question that did come forth about being the lifeguard training, and Steve was right that initially would probably have to have some of the lifeguards be coming from outside, but there's nothing stopping us from creating our own training program within it, and then eventually employing our own people or our own community members to then take it over, right? So it's always being a self-rotating within our own community. So I think I did see a question over there, so go right ahead.
Yes, I was wondering if Brant County could implement that into their school curriculum for the children.
Yes, before the even pool gets finished, we can have people trained to be lifeguards in Brantford or anywhere else to be able to do that. Yes, we can do that. And so when they are ready, they're already trained. We can have we need more than one anyway, more than one lifeguard. So,
Okay,
For-
maybe what I was talking about is the children themselves in the schools down here. Will they be able to come and implement that in their program throughout the year?
yes, we're hoping to. It's up to the education, but we're hoping to offer that to them
Okay.
because we want the kids all to learn how to swim and have their safety so they know what they're doing.
Okay.
Because a lot of kids nowadays, they go fishing with their parents on a boat. You don't want them falling in the river, right? Or lake, wherever they're fishing.
So for anybody who has had just entered, please feel free to help yourself to any of the food up there, to any foods. And if you have a question, please raise your hand and someone will come along with the mic to then hand you a mic to ask your question. So like I was mentioning in the past, is that this here is something that a lot of community members have said they need it. I think last time in the pool meeting, someone mentioned a feasibility study being done back in the 90s about whether or not the community wanted a pool. And I don't think nothing has been quite done with those statistics. But this here is the opportunity for us now, today, to gild more information and more, hopefully, traction over time to say that this is a real possibility, right? This can be a hope for all of us to have if we want it. That's the major thing. And that doesn't just say yes. Like, that doesn't just mean yes, we want it. What are the ideas? Why do we want it? How is it going to benefit our community? And not just now or in the next 5-10 years, but how can we make this right? So when we look back on this 50 years from now, when there's a complex here, that we did everything right and properly when we first started this. So I appreciate everyone being here and sharing your thoughts. But yes, please don't be shy. I'd like to kind of create this space here where you can share and talk about what you want to. You know, it's perfectly fine to do so. And that's what this is. The initial stages of these meetings are about.
And in 50 years, Dean will still be here. I won't be.
Yes, and I'll remember these days when we did this and then be like, okay, that's what created it. and you were all a part of it. And used as well online.
What about the liability for the facility and the pool and the people there?
We will have insurance for that as well, for the liability. Council already has a policy for $15 million liability that covers all the buildings, everything. So we'll look at having additional liability anyway. So I don't think that's going to be an issue.
And it's really good to mention liability and think about that because, you know, it is about being safe first and foremost, not just in the sense of, you know, the pool, but anything to do with athletics. It is first to know that you are going to be safe, and especially our kids are going to be safe when entering these facilities and using them. Of course, there's always going to be lifeguards on board, and we'll have eyes everywhere to make sure, and cameras to make sure those type of things are covered for, and everyone can feel safe when they're in this area, because that's what we want to create it as, is that central hub for not just the youth, but anybody, young to elder, it doesn't matter. You know, ideally this place would have something here for everybody to find entertainment. So I know earlier there was a comment that was when the parents do drop their kids off to do a sporting event or whatever it may be, the parent just doesn't have to sit there and watch their kid or drop off and go do something else. It's like, you can do this stuff too if you'd like to, and be encouraged to join in on the various different areas of this building that we're creating currently. You know, if you want to drop your kids off for gymnastics, let's say, then you can go ahead and go to the weight room. Or if you want to drop your kids off because there's a library and a quiet study area, then you can go to the theater or artistic area while that's happening. Or go see a movie because there's going to be probably a theater and something as simple as a projector, you know? So this is what we're imagining here, is that everybody has always something to do right here in our territory, and we don't always have to leave outside of it. Okay, because we have the capability, we have the resources, and we have the people definitely to create something here that is just something Six Nations can definitely be proud about, and other people would be jealous about, right? So we have a question here that says, oh, it's not good. Oh, perfect. That's all. So I want to thank you and welcome the 50 people joining online. I really appreciate it, right? So, once again, anybody who does have a question, please raise your hand, and I'll go ahead and get a mic to you as well. So,
oh, must be different. All right. What about location? Where would it be located? Is it still up in the air, or would it be on Parks and Rec grounds?
Well, we're actually hoping to be behind this building.
Yeah.
So it's connected to the Joe and the community center here. So it's all one complex when time we're done.
Like the weight room and
Put your
what
mic
are
up.
you talking-
Put your mic, yes.
the weight room and all that you're talking about. That's going to be all in one building. And then they say you're funded for 4 years for staff and all that. What about after the 4 years?
For what, O&M?
No, for the building.
I don't think it's going to take 4 years. It depends on how much funding we get and how soon. But I would like us to, I mean, the pool itself is done in like six to 8 months.
For
Oh, funding.
staff and all that.
Funding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the fundraiser we're doing. We're going to be looking at money for the building, the construction of the buildings, as well as O&M to run it. So it doesn't really cost anybody. I mean, there will be probably fees if somebody wants to, rent a hall for swim lessons and stuff and entrance and stuff. But we're going to try to keep it as minimal as possible.
and just to add on there as well, we have the capability to keep in some of the staff positions nowadays, right? When it comes to, well, if we're talking about security and safety, but also maintenance, like we did mention before, those type of things don't really require too much, human interaction, I guess, anymore, right? It is very much automated and computerized, and we now are becoming, within the 2020s, and we have the capability of moving past pencil and paper and and taking things online to help us keep up with, the expanding needs of our community, right? And ideally, yes, it would be, and ideally would be attached to the community hall here. Mostly because it's a centralized location within Ohsweken, a lot of people do have access or can have access to transportation here, right? And I know that's going to be a thought as well as transportation, and it is a thought on almost any program and service that the community has. But if we do keep it in an area where it is at least accessible by most people, that would be ideal. But then, that also determines how big the building's going to be, and we'll see how it feel. So.
One of the things I know is going to happen, right now there's a lot of organizations that have free skates because they're paying for it. I'm sure somebody will do the same thing with swims. They'll be free to people. And like I said, you have the lap pools. You want to do laps. There's a leisure pool, and there's one for the kids as well, and the handicap ones. So, I don't think it's going to be a big problem with getting cost-wise, because I know people will donate money for the kids to be out there. I don't think there's anybody in the community should be saying no to this because it's for the kids, for every kid, not just any group that goes to Brantford all the time, to the seniors that go to the Brantford all the time to swim. Why not have it here? It makes perfect sense to us. So that's why I think it's perfect for that, and I think we can do it. I know we can do it.
Steve, you mentioned a cost, and I'm just wondering, do we have a ballpark figure of what a basic cost for something like this facility might be? And two, I think you mentioned Orangeville. Is that a facility that you might be looking at in terms of how this also might go? And are there other examples? I'm just wondering about getting maybe some pictures for people to see some ideas of what a facility like this might look like here.
Yeah. Dave, we don't have a total cost yet for what the building, but we don't know the size building, right? The pool itself is like 6.2 million for the 4 pools. But then there's, you want an elevator put in for the second level, you want a walking track up there, whatever you're going to put in there. A gymnastics place, there's a weight room, whatever you're going to put in there. That's when it's going to cost. Like, you got to figure this out. We haven't got to that stage yet. We're still at the age where we want any ideas that we haven't come up with. And there probably will be a few more come forward. I'm sure the people online are also looking at this and saying, well, did you think about this, right? We haven't thought about everything yet. This is only our second meeting. So in the new year, hopefully we're going to have our committee together and we can sit down together and talk about it. If they want to go up to Orangeville, there's another one in Oakville they did as well. We can do and take them on a tour there to show them exactly what we're looking at. I think it'd be ideal. We haven't took pictures yet to be able to say this is what it looks like, because we don't know what it's going to look like. The one in Orangeville has a second level, and it has a small library up top with computers, and then they have another wing. They have arenas. Well, I know Cheryl here would love to have another arena, but I don't know if that's feasible or not, because where the building's going to be and the arena's at this end, it's quite a distance. It's not next to each other, right? So I think that may be an issue. But
I was only mentioning that for exactly what you just said, for ideas, so that people can, because I think if people can see it, they can get a better sense of what it might be and what it might look like.
Yeah. Also, when it comes to like the ideas and people just kind of mentally visualizing what it looks like, you can even look at ones that we probably all have attended, which is Wayne Gretzky Center, right? Just kind of look at that area and see what they all have in there when it comes to hockey, running track, all their swimming pools. They have their fitness areas and their yoga studios. Those type of things are all in that building there. And I mean, they recently, well, you can say recently in the past 10, 15 years, have expanded it so huge like that. That's something that personally I envision being here. It's something that big where we can take care of all of our, not just sports, right, but just recreation in general. More things that involve the community being together in an area centralized that is also a social aspect too. Okay, because I feel that in the future, the social aspect to steadily decline down. I mean, we kind of seen that with COVID recently as well. But I'd like to see that kind of revived a bit more, personally. Go ahead, Steve.
And Dave, one of the things that has come up recently, you've heard about, not enough daycares. Well, we may have to be putting a daycare in this thing as well, which we need more ECEs people. We need people trained to look after that, the kitchen, all that kind of stuff. So that may be part of what we're looking at as well. We haven't got to that stage yet, but I think in the future we're going to need more daycares than we have. And I don't think council's going to build any more. But we'll go from there.
And just speaking on the different, sectors of, I guess, living, when it comes to daycares and comes to lifeguard of our community members too, to then also for job opportunities, exploring different areas and giving them the ability to learn and also work their knowledge and bring it back here, and it keeps in the community, right? But we have to create an area for them to use their expertise in a proper way. If there's an overflow of a certain industry, they're going to go outside the reserve and take that knowledge they have and take it elsewhere, right? But ideally, we need to create more areas like this to where they can have the jobs stay here and our people can work down here and continue to share their knowledge here in our community. So for those who just entered in, welcome, and please help yourself to any of the food and refreshments up there. There's going to be a lot, so don't be shy, right? There's going to be a lot left over. So, and also if you have any questions, just there's there's a pen and paper in front of you, but also please feel free to raise your hand and share any of your thoughts or concerns you may have about anything to do with a community pool or this pool complex area. But also some more of the things that we may not have thought about, but also things that you can just imagine for, okay? I did mention in the beginning that it's about opening your mind past the box that some of us may be in, right? And it's allowing yourself to dream about what is this community capable of? You know, what can it be capable of if we all come together and want to do something like this? That's the goal. And also, these engagements, we can say, can also lead into more different areas in the future as well, right? Different community topics, because I know that's something I've heard as well. And I mean, I'm listening, I'm hearing them, right? Especially some of the ones online that I've been saying. I see them, you know, and it's good because, one, it's sharing your voice, and everyone has a right to have their voice and concern heard, right? That's the whole point about this. Nobody's going to be shunned out. Nobody's going to, you know, we're listening and we're making sure that we take these engagements, not just about the pool, but also can move into other topics as well, so in the future. So thank you very much. And I think we have a mic.
Hello. I have a question and a couple, but I was just wondering the timeline. I just know a community that's still dreaming about their pool for decades now. So I was wondering what's your hope for, or if you know already the timeline. And also, if you think about green buildings, have you thought about that? And also, is it going to be indoor or outdoor? And, you know, with climate change, and we still don't have winter here, and it's November. Oh, it's almost done. So it's not like a myth. And if you've got anything to, you know, to reduce our community, we could just go live out there if we want it. So how to make it come from our perspective holistically, but also environmentally especially. Like we could be a leader in that way, so make it more meaningful. And it will probably last longer as well. And it would be something like our children would value instead of just space. You know, it'd be something that is not destructive overall. But yeah, I probably would have more questions after, so yeah.
Thank you very much for your question and concern. I really appreciate it. All right, no problem. Steve does have to take off to another engagement here, so thank you very much, Steve. But also, back to your question, I really appreciate sharing your thoughts and concerns with this, that we also do want to keep that aspect of our culture and heritage involved with this as well, because you're right, you just don't want it to turn into something that is completely off reserve, right? But that's also why engaging everybody here, and even the ones online, what does that look like? What does it look like to have it be Six Nations based and not just another off-reserve facility, you can say, right? And we have been looking into the green options as well, making sure that we're always about reducing our carbon footprint around this area and maintaining that status that we do have when it revolves around green energy. So that is something that I know that the board or so far has been taken in consideration. So let's see here, to touch upon that as well with the board aspect, this is also an opportunity for any one of you who would be interested into joining this committee and seeing the future planning of it, to also write down your contact information and a way we can maybe create some kind of commission or board, whatever it may be, so everyone can always have constant input into this project. You know, the thing that would be definitive would just be the building itself once it's up. But until then, it's still open-ended, you know, and hearing these ideas is something that we're always willing to take in. And earlier, that your future generations are going to be using it, your kids are going to be using it, your grandkids are going to be using it, but also our community's future generations are going to be using it. So let's go ahead and do a little thinking for them right now and share all of our concerns and thoughts while we can, and have the opportunity to, before it becomes, you know, we can look back, and hopefully it's not a bad thing when we look back onto it. So anybody, yes, once again, please help yourself to any of the refreshments. I'm going to keep repeating that because I know last time there was a lot, so have as much as you want here. And raise your hands if you have any more questions as well. But also, if you don't feel like talking, that's perfectly fine as well. There's pen and paper in front of you. Please write all your answers and leave them on the table, and we'll come around at the end to collect all of them. And compile all the information that we have.
Are you compiling a report then from everything that everybody says? Is that what this stage is or part?
Ideally, yes. We'll go ahead, once we have the names and everybody in who would like to be participants in the board, then we can decide what we want to do with that information. And yes, I can see us just pushing it out to the community that this is the feedback we had, you know, some of the statistics that we've collected doing this. Like Steve has mentioned before, this is only the second meeting, right? So there is no really like plan A to plan B, right? That's something that the community board that's established, and anybody can join on it, you know, and if you have the time commitment to do so as well, okay? Because it's not just sitting on it and, you know, saying yes to certain things, right? It is a lot of work, and Steve did emphasize that before. But yes, I can see there being a report and keeping the community updated on what is happening and where the thoughts are, and hopefully that then entices more people to say, this needs to be added, I need to say this, right? So, more questions?
Yes, you keep saying board. Is there one established now, and how many, if so?
That is kind of the purpose of today's meeting as well, is for everybody, if you would like to join, please feel free to leave your contact information, your number, your name, and then we'll have a list that will add to the current list that we have right now. You know, because you do want people who are committed to something. Time frame wise, Steve did mention that there is already cost estimations for the pool. It's just about getting cost estimation for the size of the building. Once you have that, then you can now look at the overall cost before we then do the fundraising activities afterwards. But that there would be the responsibility of the community and this board that we are going to establish with the feedback we have right now.
So they'll establish like the time and the date, or like how often during the month, things like that, or is that hard?
Established at the moment, because we still want to see if people want to volunteer their time to do this, you know, and it might be, who knows, a year, 2 years, but that's the exciting part though about this, is it's not always about knowing the answer at the end, okay? It's about sometimes discovering the answer, and it's okay that we don't know that right now, you know, and doing these type of things that haven't been done, and I understand this has been talk in the community since, you know, before I was born. But that's the whole point, is you have to navigate in these uncharted waters and then see what does come up. And then eventually, if somebody wants to do something, you know, 10, 20 years, they can look to see how this process went, and then maybe they can follow that. But as of right now, there is a lot of unknowns. You know, you can see that's scary and it's unorganized, or you can look at it, okay, well, if there's a bunch of unknowns, then we can also look at it on the flip side that this leaves room for opportunity to do things that, you know, maybe you don't like how we're done in the past. It's an opportunity for change and how we can do things a different way. So, yes.
Yeah, Dean. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you for you and Steve and Arlene. I see Arlene sitting over here, who certainly brought us together with this new project that has been long past due. Council has certainly talked about such a thing for years and years, and always said, you know, oh, it'll cost too much money. We can't do that. Well, that's not the case now, which we seem to understand. And I was wondering, with you mentioned with training, wondering if we should sort of look into people who are genuinely interested in working at this particular pool that we're going to have. We do have some, like Ava Hill's daughter. I remember Ava mentioning she would get up 4 o'clock in the morning, and her daughter Julie, she would take her to Wayne Gretzky. So she had numerous experience in swimming. So I wonder if we can do that too, because we don't know what our our community is really made of when it comes to interest in a pool, and I guess maybe people have been employed, for example, as a lifeguard. After all, we do have a water that is very close by to us, not only the Grand River, but we have Port Dover, Little Port Dover, so we should sort of explore that and see where we're at with the interest in people that are already have experience in some of those areas. Thanks.
Yes, you're correct. We don't know what those, I guess you can call them, statistics are even within our own community, and how many people are interested in anything to do with not just swimming, but you can even say aquatics, because we've never had the platform or opportunity to showcase it, you know. And this could be the start of that. And we don't know if we do potentially have an Olympic swimmer living somewhere right now, you know, that is doing that type of training nonstop. I know I certainly don't know, but if we do have a place and we can give them and support them doing that, then it just brings more a community sense that even if it feels very niche or a lot of people don't do it or whatever, but that person does, right? And that person still matters. So I can see us looking into the people who are already interested into it and reaching out to them in the future, for sure. So we have a question here, is who will manage this? Now, one of the things that we've talked about with establishing this community board, and I want to emphasize that, right, is it is a community board, because it's all up to us if we want to have this, right? It's not going to be there's just one person making all the choices and decisions and then somebody not liking it, and then now it turns into conflict, right? That's happened so many times in the past, that this is almost an open community board where people can share their voices and concerns on anything that regarding the recreation and, I guess, well-being of our kids, because we can say that this facility is aimed towards kids, but it's also aimed towards every age, of course. But I can see the board managing this alongside with the council, but it will still be community based, and you determine who manages it and in which direction it goes. And let's see here. Thank you for the suggestions as well, right? Definitely Aquafit for everybody involved, especially our elders. I know that being in the fitness space and being a personal trainer, that swimming is probably one of the best physical activities that you can do, mostly because the less weight on the joints, right? Because over time, as we age, the joints become a little bit less, become more frail. But being in water allows you to be weightless and still, you know, have the resistance, a natural resistance of water to still build muscle mass. So I can definitely see there being more Aquafit for elders. And a music space, yes. One of the things that we're discussing before was a music studio and or soundproof room that could also be in this hypothetical building. You know, to allow our kids down here to showcase more of their artistic sides, right? It's not just about sports, hockey, lacrosse. There's other aspects our kids are interested in, and the arts is one of them for sure that is on our radar. So, once again, for those who just joined, you can go ahead and help yourself to the food. There's going to be plenty of food left over, and you can raise your hand for any more questions here. Yes.
Thanks. I was just wondering, so you talked about it as a community board. Is it going to be something like the library is independent, but there's an MOU? Is it going to be like that? Or how is this community board going to work? Or is the board going to decide? And is it like a band council staff member supporting it, like logistically? Is that kind of your role? Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question. So how I can answer that right now is that would be up to this board, right? I can't say that this is how it's going to be because the board isn't established as of yet, right? That is up to the decision of them. But me personally, how I can hypothetically see it is, yes, that would be, and there could be potential MOUs with the elected council for support, right? But that's just me speaking out of my own mind. But as for the community, that's for you to decide, right? It's going to be, the ball is in your court on if you want to have that or not want to have that. I think we have another question here, so.
Yeah, I just came in late, so I kind of missed the overall. Is it going to be like one big building that houses everything, or? Yeah, so if you could just recap a bit.
No problem about that. One, thank you for showing up. Even if it's late, that's perfectly fine. I know it's an open door, so anybody and everybody can come in. But yes, ideally it would be just one big building that has different sectors and different rooms to fulfill all the ideas and various different, I guess, facilities that the community feels we need. I'll go over a quick list once again. One of them was, well, all of them, I should say, were the theater, artistic movie theaters area, gymnastics area, libraries, study rooms, weight rooms, rock climbing, saunas, cold plunges, running tracks, cafes, gift shops, daycares, arcades, music studio rooms, party rooms, rentals. You know, all of these ideas would ideally be in one big building, right? But we're always looking for more ideas before we set that down into paper and then officially say this is the size of the building, right? So, like, now's the opportunity. If you have anything or anybody has anything to add to that list, please feel free to do so.
Like your bowling alley? Bowling alley?
There we go. Let's go ahead and add that to the list. Why not? Sure. See, and this will then determine the size of the building. And that's the major goal of this today, and the last one as well. What is the size? Because once we get the size, we can now look at what the estimated cost is going to be. Right? Because those are the questions we can't answer because, well, we want all of your input on how big it's going to be, right? So thank you all very much. Any final questions here? Because we are going to end up on our time.
Hello? Oh, we have a gentleman here from Iroquois Lodge who has suggestions. I'm just going to hand the mic to him.
Hi. It's hard to go to Brantford and I got a van. It's hard to get along, and it's hard to pay for back and forth. But I'm glad you guys are having a pool for us, for everybody. But for a lot of people that's around here, like Town Line and all over, down below or anywhere. And it's better to have it than waiting for to get a ride or back and forth. But I got two people here that really helped me out. And there's only two here.
Thank you very much for coming out here and sharing your thoughts and concerns. I really appreciate it, truly. Yes, I know that that transportation has always been something that's been on our mind for a very long time, you know. And the more things that that our community members enjoy and have to leave the community for, those are the type of things I personally would like to try and establish down here, just because it just keeps our community here together on our territory and makes it easier accessible for everybody involved. So thank you very much. Oh, go ahead.
Dean. I'm calling Jody at the same time. Yeah, I guess everyone here probably reads the paper. If not, they've heard of it, about the transportation that's going to be in place very shortly. And no doubt, when we talk about transportation, which Iroquois Lodge person has mentioned, a study was done some years ago, and we knew it's a big problem on the reserve. After school, that's been a problem for years, and visiting people. I was just at the hospital, and it's very different off now than we used to be years ago. Remember how we had these cars that broke down all the time and had dirt roads? Well, we're a bit beyond that. We're actually having a bus that's going to travel around the reserve at different locations and take them to Brantford. So no doubt, Dean and Arlene and Steve and the community, you as a community will be discussing this, that we also need transportation to the pool. And it was mentioned before some of the people came in, that transportation is really necessary because many, many people are in need.
Thank you very much for that. And yes, you are correct. There is lots of transportation initiatives that I know that we're exploring, and some of them will be currently rolling out very soon, because this is something that's always an issue, and we're hoping to solve that, that's for sure. So, with that being said, everybody, I do want to say one more time, thank you all very much for taking your time to come out here and share your thoughts and concerns. I really appreciate it. And same thing with everybody online, taking your time to come out and, not come out, actually log in and watch the live stream. I really appreciate it. And, oh yes, so there we go. So, with all that being said, everybody, I know that you leave your contact information if you would like to get involved with this initiative, and your name and number. We'll go ahead and pick up the sheets along the table there. And last bit for the food. There's going to be lots of food left. So thank you. Take care. Safe travels home, everybody.